What's the weirdest hill you've ever died on? My law professor assigned me to represent some kid in court over a ferret. I was failing trial advocacy, and this was my last chance to pass. Leo had found a ferret in a dumpster, but some rich guy claimed it was his championship ferret worth $10,000. I figured I'd show up, lose gracefully, and at least get participation points. The whole thing was ridiculous. I walked into the courtroom hungover in my borrowed suit with a folder full of Wikipedia printouts I'd compiled at 3 in the morning. Then I saw Leo, this skinny 12-year-old carefully holding a carrier and whispering to the ferret inside that everything would be okay. Across the aisle sat Walter Henderson, who looked like he owned several yachts, and his lawyer, who probably billed more per hour than my annual tuition. The lawyer was setting up an entire presentation about Mr. Slinky, a champion ferret with documentation tracking his bloodline back 14 generations. He had certificates, veterinary records, and sworn affidavits from something called the International Ferret Society. I looked at my Wikipedia printouts that said ferrets are domesticated polecats and felt like an idiot. But then Leo tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Mr. Slinky saved my life," and something in my chest tightened. I stood up and said Leo found the ferret in a dumpster eating pizza, which seemed like reasonable doubt to me. Henderson's lawyer pulled out security footage of something escaping from Henderson's mansion that might have been a ferret-shaped blur. He had an expert witness via Zoom, the world's leading ferret behavioral analyst, ready to testify. I wanted to laugh, but Leo was gripping my arm so tight it hurt. The lawyer showed photos of Mr. Slinky in a ferret mansion that probably cost more than my car. Leo started crying, and I found myself actually getting angry. This wasn't about a ferret anymore. It was about some rich asshole trying to take the only thing this kid cared about. I tried to object, but didn't know the right legal terms, so I just said, "That's not fair," and immediately felt like a child playing dress-up. Henderson's lawyer produced a genealogy chart showing Mr. Slinky was descended from the only ferret to survive the Titanic, which couldn't possibly be true but sounded impressive. I asked Leo to show how Mr. Slinky responded to his name, praying for a miracle. The ferret just sat there eating a banana chip, and my heart sank. But then Leo said quietly, "He only comes when he feels safe." Henderson stood up and started shouting about his precious baby, while Leo hugged the carrier tighter. The judge asked for actual proof this was the same ferret. Henderson's lawyer produced a DNA test, but I noticed it just said, "Ferret DNA confirmed," with no comparison sample. For the first time in law school, I actually felt smart pointing that out. The lawyer tried to show a birthmark, but Mr. Slinky wouldn't stop moving and definitely bit the lawyer's finger, which made Leo smile for the first time all day. The ferret behavioral analyst testified about Mr. Slinky's unique war dance, but the Wi-Fi kept cutting out, so it sounded like gibberish. Henderson's lawyer tried demonstrating the dance himself, hopping and spinning until he knocked over his presentation board. Ferret photos scattered everywhere, and when one landed on the judge's face showing a ferret in a tuxedo, I caught her trying not to smile. Maybe we had a chance. During recess, Henderson cornered us in the hallway and offered Leo $500, then $1,000. Leo said no and buried his face in the carrier. Henderson's lawyer started threatening criminal charges for possession of stolen ferret property. They said they'd make sure Leo could never adopt another animal. I wanted to punch them both, which wasn't very lawyer-like but felt entirely human. This kid had nothing, and they wanted to take away the one creature that loved him. Back in court, they announced new evidence, a social media post about a missing weasel. I pointed out ferrets weren't weasels, surprising myself by caring about the distinction. The judge looked exhausted, and I realized she probably had real cases waiting, but to Leo, this was the realest case in the world. I found myself standing taller, speaking louder, fighting for this ridiculous ferret like it mattered, because to Leo, it did. Henderson's lawyer pulled out a microchip scanner. Mr. Slinky was chipped. This will prove everything. He turned it on and